Howdy, folks. Welcome to the IBB podcast. I'm your co-host, Cam.
And I am the other co-host, Noah, and we are going to be going over the behind the scenes of the classic Jim Carrey Christmas movie, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. Not the cartoon, the live action version.
Yes, because they wouldn't have gotten that from the live action poster I've clearly put on the... Hey, thanks for the clarification. Moving on. All right. Oh, the horror. Let me take it away with Jim Carrey, the CIA, and the Grinch movie, and what kind of realm these three things live in. So if you don't know, Jim Carrey played our Fancy Feast Grinch over here. After 92 days of being trapped in spandex, yak hair, painstaking, and burning yellow contact lenses, this guy has had enough. Jim Carrey was losing it all the time, always making outbursts at the makeup artist, who also had to go to therapy after. We're going to get into that. But the studio was like, all right, we can't deal with Jim anymore. We're kind of done with all his outbursts and aggressive behavior. It's time to bring in the big guns. And big guns they did bring in with the CIA of the United States of America coming in with a torture expert to talk to Jim about all the stress and torture he is enduring and how to deal with it in different techniques. He did this for 92 days. It didn't help that he had an addiction problem as well. He's clean now. Jim is nice and sober, but this guy's life was going off the rails, so to speak. Now, it took 8.5 hours to get the own suit on. Like, that's crazy. In and of itself, I couldn't do that. No wonder this guy went friggin' insane. Just with all of that, we get it, Jim. I'm sure the $35 million paycheck made it all worth it, though.
I'd hope so, because this guy, at the time, he was probably just sitting on money.
Yeah, exactly.
Because especially around this time, I believe the first Dumb and Dumber movie came out.
Yeah, and Ace Ventura as well.
Yeah, exactly. So this guy was just sitting on money at this point. I don't know what he'd be stressed about either.
I think the Grinch was more or less a Christmas bonus.
Yeah, I guess so.
Moving on.
Now,
tagging you in.
Yeah, now moving on to the two potential actors who almost played the Grinch. So firstly, I want to go over Eddie Murphy.
Wow.
This guy, I just can't see him as the Grinch. I just...
Donkey!
Yeah, I see too much of Shrek into him. Like, sure, Shrek's green too, but if Eddie Murphy played Donkey, right? So
it's weird. You can't see him playing the Grinch.
No, I can't. And it's like that time that Michael B. Jordan wanted to be Superman, right? Like, it just, you can't really see that happening.
Bingo.
Yeah, exactly. And then going over the other actor here, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with, Jack Nicholson, who played the Joker.
Yeah.
Out of the two, I could see him playing it.
Just with that creepy smile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He has practice from the Batman movies, and he's more familiar with makeup on his face and stylish hair and clothing and all that. But again, I don't think either of these two would have done a better job than Jim Carrey did. Like, the way Jim Carrey puts it, he went through sort of like a angry phase for this role,
like teenage angst.
Yeah,
almost.
Exactly. And just to see these two,
get into fits of anger.
Yeah, exactly. If you were to put them in Jim Carrey's shoes, I just couldn't see it going down any better than how it originally did with Jim Carrey.
Exactly. Donkey's losing all his wits and everything. There is a granddaughter of Dr. Seuss out there who's like, all right, so Dr. Seuss did have a list of actors he could definitely see playing the Grinch. John Cusack was on there. I don't see that one. But Jim Carrey was at the top of the list. Thank God for it, and thank God he was our Grinch. Now I'm going to tag in here with the lucky first take. So Grinch is really mad, as he always is. He goes to the kitchen to swipe the cloth and thrash all the dishes around. The point here was total and utter destruction. You ever get into a fit of anger and just want to punch the wall?
It was like he was taking it out on the set while the cameras were rolling.
Exactly. So he pulls at the cloth while in costume, and nothing happens. The cloth comes out from under the dishes, but the dishes remain on the table nice and steady. So then, in a funny kind of way, he goes back and just flutters them around. You can't see the fact that I just waved my hands. That's what that awkward pause was for. So with the dishes, he did swing him around, and they did end up thrashing on the ground, but it's not originally how it was supposed to go. So that was kind of interesting that I found that out. Now, crazy this one. This one gets me.
So when you look at this image, you would think that they built this for the movie, right? And by looking at it, you would think, how much money did they put into building this set? But funny enough, this was not built. This was actually all CGI work. So the entirety of Whoville, which was pretty much the main setting of the movie, this was all done by a computer. What was I gonna say? Okay, I got it. But I'm sure the budget going, like, if they were to build this, they wouldn't have enough money to pay Jim Carrey, the directors. It just, none of that. And also, the time this movie came out, around the early 2000s, CGI wasn't the most powerful thing as it is today.
That's true.
And looking at this movie compared to, like, other clear CGI movies, this movie could definitely hold up today. And especially if I hope they don't do this, but if they decide to remake it, it might look, well, obviously it'll look even better than this.
Exactly, and to top this is pretty hard because they did a really good job with all the lighting and
I don't want to know how many hours this took for each individual scene almost.
Yeah, no, that would be painstaking because, of course, Dr. Seuss has got this crazy thing in mind for Whoville. Oh, man, what a challenge. But, you're looking out at Whoville, you're seeing all the snow, and, it's Christmas time, right? That's snow. No, snow melts people, and they're in a set. So they can't exactly do that. So when we had those ground shots of Whoville, they actually needed some kind of snow, so they went out, bought 153,000 pounds of marble, and crashed it, thrashed it, and sledgehammered the heck out of it. Being a crew member on that day would have been awesome. I'm just saying myself, like, the marble is like, it can be like a slab for your kitchen island. But for this, they just went out, bought a whole bunch of marble, smashed it up into little bits of pieces. The reason why we got the Statue of Liberty here is, 153,000 pounds. To get an idea of how much they actually did smash, you're looking at the Statue of Liberty, 2 of them and a third. So that's just kind of the fun they had there. And then they spread it out. Ugh.
Now going over the Oscars. So you would think all this effort that was put into this movie, we've went over the CGI, we've just went over the snow, and then we just went over the drama controversies on set. So you'd think after all of these hours, this movie would win some sort of an award, right? And luckily it did. It did earn an Oscar, and this movie was also nominated for Best Art Direction and Costumes. 250,000 costumes in this movie were hand knitted, which also adds more effort to this movie. Like, you have to respect, like, the makeup artists and just the costume designers, because even if you look at, like, every Who's, like, nose and the extras in the movie with their, like, knitted clothing
and the colorful clothing too, that could not have been easy.
And and you look at the mayor's hair here, it's not quite Wolverine, but it's like getting there. But that takes like a lot of time and effort, especially with this fancy sort of like cape thing that he wears in the movie. Like that, like, if I had to say, that would at least take 8 to 10 hours, I think, because I know people who have knitted, and it's like knitting takes weeks or days even.
Oh yeah.
So luckily this thing took this took thousands of hours, and luckily this thing got a well-deserved Oscar.
Precisely. I can't even add any more to that. Next up, kind of a wackadoodle out of the blue kind of fixture here, but Max is a woman. I said it, put it out there. Max is not a male. He is a female named Kelly, so she is a female named Kelly. Yeah, that's right. Max does not acquire what we thought he acquires.
Well, it's a dog. I mean, what? How are you gonna tell the difference between a female dog and a dog? Right?
You got me there.
Especially in movies where like Max isn't the main plot of the whole thing. He's just kind of like In a way, he's like the second comic relief.
Yeah, 100%. And, I can't believe they were going to go for a CGI dog to begin with. They were like, all right, well, we can't get a talented boy dog. Closest thing we got to this, all the CGI money is going to Whoville. Might as well,
Plus,
this is a female dog. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, and it looks like the one from the cartoon.
Exactly.
You can't get any better than that dog right there.
Precisely. Tagging in here.
Now, going over this attempted appreciation thing here. So this guy, Ron Howard, who also directed the film.
Yeah, he's the director, yeah.
The director of the film. So after all this drama, he wanted to show his appreciation and some love towards Jim Carrey for his performance, because again, would he do this for Eddie Murphy and Jack Nicholson? Probably not. So he decided to dress up in full costume of the Grinch. And then he arrived on the set with that. So when Carrey arrived on the set for the shooting the next day, he thought Ron Howard was a stunt double. This infuriated Jim Carrey to the point where he lost it on his boss.
Yeah.
So when he came to the realization that he was yelling at his boss, that was a awkward, really, really awkward time.
I can't do that. If I lost it on my boss, I'd be gone. I'd be gone.
All was after all was explained, and then at the end of it, Carrey was appreciative that Ron Howard would even attempt to do something like that. But it was a close call there for Ron, and it was a close call for Jim Carrey as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even add to that. We got next up. You know him, you love him, Hannibal Lecter and Odin himself, Mr. Anthony Hopkins, or Sir Anthony Hopkins. This guy came in, he was our narrator, did a whole bunch of Dr. Seuss, rhyming and poems and all that kind of jazz. He read us the Grinch story. Now he came in and did it all in one day. Legendary kind of actor here. I think he might have been, just pushing 65 or 70 at the time. This was one of the easier performances of the entire movie. All the other performances were more or less painstaking with all that makeup.
Deal with all the outbursts.
Exactly.
And
he didn't need an outfit or anything. He can show up there in his PJs and a good can-do attitude, and he can do
nice cup of coffee next to him.
Exactly. Nice cup of coffee. Let's read the Grinch story. That's basically what he did. And he's a glorified storyteller here. And it was an easy paycheck for our Hannibal, and easy indeed.
Now, that concludes our behind the scenes of the Grinch Who Stole Christmas podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening. We hope you come again for future podcasts. Yeah. Merry Christmas, especially happy holidays to you all.
Exactly. I appreciate you guys hanging out, and I hope you learned something. I know I did, putting together this slideshow. Ton of fun. Thanks for hanging out, and have a great day, everyone.